You don't need 200,000 people to appreciate you, to appreciate yourself. If you can appreciate yourself and you can connect with like 2 other people, I think that's a life well lived. You know, that's hard for a lot of people. Hi, welcome back to Friend Crush. I'm your host, Amber Akilla, with bleached eyebrows. This is my video series where I talk about stuff and things, cute, chaotic, and critical thinking. Okay, I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to film/record video, post on YouTube, the video version, but also have the audio version on podcast platforms, because even though I said I was going to do full video, people have said they enjoy listening to the audio version and I don't want to gatekeep, so I'm going to do my best to keep both updated. It takes so long to upload stuff from China, just so you know. Yeah, I'm going to do my best. Life is getting a little bit chaotic right now, so let's see how we go. But I always really appreciate people who send their feedback, questions, comments, topic suggestions as well. I just love to talk smack. And I just enjoy, the continuous attempts at empowering myself and others. I think that something that I've learned, or something that's become really apparent to me, is that I think like true confidence and power comes not from trying to like dominate or control others, but doing your best to support and facilitate other people's growth. Because the definition of love that I follow is the willingness to extend oneself for your own or another's personal growth. That's a quote from M. Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, which is also the name of one of my favorite Robert Frost poems. And basically, I think that, that definition of love, it is separate to like romance culture and dating culture. It's something that you can use in a family context, in a friendship context, in a societal context, but also in a romantic context. So if you are not willing to set your ego aside, basically, in order to try to connect and understand and support someone in their journey, even if it deviates away from your own, then I don't think you are truly like practicing love. And the same goes for when you're being treated by someone who isn't able to set their ego aside in order to facilitate and support your spiritual growth, right? And I think for me, like when I truly understood that definition of love and noticed how I do or don't practice that in my own life, and then noticed how other people do or don't practice that in the way that they treat me, it really depersonalized the idea that being lovable is something that is a reflection of your inherent value. Everybody has inherent value as a person, but then you can think about, in the people-pleasing episode, I talked about you have your internal cup and your external cup. Your internal cup is your responsibility and yours alone to manage and control. And it's your responsibility to develop an awareness of how big this cup is and where you can fill it up, where you can notice how you might be wasting energy or not applying or utilizing your energy efficiently. And then your external cup is the energy that you have to share with others and create shared reality with others. And nobody can take anything from your internal cup, from your self-value, your self-worth, unless you allow them to. And sometimes you don't realize that that's what you're doing. So, the journey for self-growth and self-evolution and self-awareness is just becoming more aware of your internal cup and taking full responsibility for it. And that is an ongoing journey. It's not something that you just wake up one day and know how to do. It's something that you practice, and something that I'm practicing, something I encourage other people to practice. It's not easy, but, it's made life a lot more enjoyable. Anyway, with that being said, today's episode is about happiness, I think, and just this concept of like wasting or not wasting time, because I'm going to do a sheet mask while I discuss this. So I saw this YouTube video and it was like, I wasted my early 20s, so you don't have to. And I originally read it as like, I wasted my 20s, so you didn't have to. So I like clicked on it just to see what it was about. And then I realized it was, I wasted my early 20s, so you don't have to. And speaking as someone who's in her late 20s, and I understand like using the term waste is kind of like a clickbaity way of like getting people to click on your video. So that's fair enough. But I just think that I do see a lot of people talking about this idea of like, you wasted your 20s, you wasted your 30s, you wasted your life. And I just think that nothing is wasted if you've learned something. Okay, like you've never really failed if you've learned something from your experiences. Even if the said experience lasted a decade, it's like trying to make the most of your time and trying to get as much wisdom and out of a situation is how you're able to accept the cards that you've been dealt and the journey that you're on, and then move forward in like a healthy and empowered way. Oh my God, I actually look so scary. I'm so sorry, but I'm determined to do more than one thing at once because I'm insane. So I think that, this is the sheet mask as well. A Bib Gummy Sheet Mask Hyaluron Sticker. My friend bought it back for me from South Korea. So I think that this concept of like wasted time is such a disempowering way to think about your journey as a person. And I think it's rooted in like capitalism and patriarchy, because capitalism is all about maximizing efficiency, maximizing profit, being able to have all these like external markers of success, like your job title, your salary, your social status, etc., etc. But these are all like societal constructs. These are part of an ideology that organizes society. It's not like the truth of your existence unless you allow it to be. And most of us are conditioned to believe that that is truth and that is reality, that these are the only ways that you can see the world. This is how the world is. It's through this capitalist ideology. But in reality, you can create mental separation between the capitalist society that we live in and your own personal experience. You can't necessarily totally escape capitalism. There is going to be parts of you that, need to work and make money in these systems. But having an awareness and creating a mental separation between you and yourself and your value and your life and the things that bring you joy, and then like the rules of the game that you have to play in order to like participate in society, I think is not only a more empowering way to live your life, but it's also a radical way that allows people to question the values and ideology that are like foisted upon us. And then when you have resources and privilege to reshape how the game is played, to change the rules, you'll know how to do it. Okay, because there are plenty of people who are in positions of power who have gotten there because they've lived their life believing that these values are truth, believing that that is how the world is organized. Like you can't play and win unless you kind of like fully embody that in a way. And even in their positions of power, in their positions of privilege, they've accumulated so much wealth, they're able to actually shape and change society for the better. They don't believe that it's possible because they don't have that mental separation. Their value only comes from these external markers of success. And the way that I know that is because I've had enough conversation with men who are like similar age to me or older than me, and they've barely even started to scratch the surface of like questioning the values in which they've been brought up with and the things that they've done that have given them like superficial levels of success, but haven't necessarily brought them like spiritual fulfillment or satisfaction. And these two things, like it's two circles that only kind of intersect, like if you're doing work that you believe in and that you love and that brings you a sense of fulfillment in a capitalist system, of course that can give you like spiritual fulfillment too, but it's not granted, like it's not a given. You're lucky if that's the case, but a lot of people work jobs that they feel absolutely no purpose or drive towards, which is fine, collect the check, but then they haven't considered how they can also nurture their spirit outside of that time. And obviously like someone did ask me on TikTok, like, how can you do this if you're working 60-hour weeks and your job is really demanding and you don't have time for breaks? I totally get that, or I don't even get it, because my point was like, I don't have all the answers. I'm just a girl on the internet. But like, I don't have all the answers, and privilege does give me blind spots. So for me, I can't imagine what it's like to work for 60 hours a week under extremely high pressure conditions without any time to myself. But I also think that anybody who has managed to get out of a situation like that would tell you that you need to start creating very small spaces mentally for yourself to either detach from your job, find different job opportunities, find ways that you can like slowly start to restructure your life and your energy and your time and your mindset, so that you don't have to live under those conditions forever. There are lots of people who have been able to make it out of that environment. Combination of privilege, luck, mindset. But I think that the only way that you can open yourself up to luck is by changing your mindset. Because I think about recently, since I've been back in Shanghai, the last few months have been slow because it's been like holiday season and Chinese New Year, COVID peak, etc. And I could have stressed myself out that whole time and been like, oh my God, what's going to come next? Nothing's working, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's working in general. What am I going to do? But I also had faith that like, okay, these are the things I want to be working on when the city starts getting back on its feet. People start coming back from their holiday and their revenge travel and their visiting family. And because my mindset was like more relaxed and open, when people started reaching out to me for opportunities, I was able to make like clear-headed decisions rather than just assuming that I had to take every opportunity that was offered to me. I was able to plan more efficiently and get excited for new things rather than sort of like stressing that nothing was going to come. And I went through like a similar period where when I was in Perth and I was stuck there during the pandemic, I was losing so many jobs because I wasn't able to physically be where I needed to be. And of course, I was like depressed and like devastated that I was taken away from my friends, taken away from my life. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, well, I'm still extremely lucky to be where I am right now. I'm able to spend more time with my mom than I ever have in my whole life. And I need to shift my perspective so that I can make the most of my time here and appreciate that my effort can be directed towards a different part of my life that I wouldn't be able to nurture as well if I was just in Shanghai and away from my family and away from my mom. And I think that that's such an important thing to reflect on when you're thinking about what makes you happy and like what are markers of success. I think the idea that it's just superficial things like the job that you do or the achievements that you've been able to make in your life, like external achievements, I don't know, like once you've achieved enough like external things that might give you like a sense of societal approval and might give you clout, which does have value in and of itself. There is a place for that, of course. It doesn't mean you just give up like wanting to achieve anything. But like, I don't think about the brands that I've worked with or the projects, the scale of the projects I've worked on when I think about the things that have brought me joy. You know, it's like the people that I was able to work with and collaborate with, the experience that I had doing those things, not necessarily the amount of money that I got or like the brand that I was associated with. So I think it's about finding a balance between these two things. It's not just that you have to tick these boxes and then you'll never experience pain again, or you'll feel so good about yourself that, you know, you transcend to another dimension. I really don't think that that's like a empowering way to live, because there's just so many stories of people who have defined themselves by those things and then gotten to a point and realized that they've never truly felt happy or satisfied with what they've been doing because they've given up their ability to connect with people on a human level, or given up, you know, or they haven't prioritized time to really connect with themselves, connect with nature, connect with their body. So I think that if you do feel like you've wasted your time, that is a natural feeling to have because of the way that we've been conditioned to think like everything needs to be maximized, all time needs to be accounted for. But if there's anything that I've learned in the past few years, it's that your downtime is just as important as like your hardworking, chaotic, like at 110% time. You can't be going at 100 all the time. And if you think that people are doing that and doing well, everything has its limit, okay? Everything that goes up must come down. That is just like the way that things go. And I'm not saying that in the sense that you should be preying on people's downfall, but you should just recognize that that is life. You're going to have periods of time where you're going to be working really hard and working towards a goal. And then it's also important to have time where you can rest and recuperate and re-strategize so that the thing that you do next is going to be like more fulfilling or is going to be an expansion of yourself and not just the same shit over and over and over. And sometimes you just need to keep living to really see that. I didn't really understand what those ups and downs meant until the last few years in the second half of my 20s. At the beginning of my 20s, I just hadn't been alive long enough to appreciate that the time that I was spending exploring and fucking around and experimenting and making all these different kinds of mistakes, they were all lessons. It was like research, basically, you know? And now that I'm in my late 20s, I have a much better understanding of what I do and don't like, and I'm continuing to explore that in new ways, but I don't feel like this constant sense of anxiety around the decisions that I'm making that I used to when I was younger, or I don't feel like I have to justify what I'm doing all the time, what I like and what I don't like, the way that I did when I was younger. And it's just because I've been alive longer that I've been able to collect enough data points and then actually see how these points connect, like connect these dots and create a picture. You know, when you first start out, you just haven't been alive long enough. You only have a few dots available and you only have a sketch. And then as you get older, this painting that is your life continues to have layers added. Whether you consider your life like a painting, a garden, or a project, like these are the three things that I always use an analogy for. There is this like constant reworking that takes place in all of these things. And, you know, as is without, so is within. So you think about a project you're working on in your external life, this is also similar to your internal life. And I think that true happiness ultimately exists independent of these external things. When you think about the things that have truly brought you joy, the moments where you felt the most present, the moments where you felt like you're really in flow, it's when you forget about the outside world. It's when you're immersed in the moment. You know, like I think about, for me, moments where you sort of lose track of time. It's like where I'm having such a good time with my friends, I forget I'm even in public at a restaurant and we're all like hysterically laughing and we need to remind ourselves to like pipe down. Or, you know, you're at a party and you're having a dance and you're so immersed in the music that you have like an out-of-body experience, or you are so in love with the person that you're dating that it's like nobody else exists, only the two of you. Or you're so immersed in the activity that you're doing that you feel so connected to your body and to the moment. And these are all things that, yes, of course, like money plays a part in maybe facilitating, but it's not defined by the amount of money that you've spent or the amount of money that you're making. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this is kind of like an issue that comes with like capitalist critique and just the way that it intersects or that it conflicts with spiritual and like psychological growth principles. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's just like an area that I think about a lot. That's why people say that it's about like these small things that are going to bring you the most joy in life. And you don't need to think that you need to be living in a constant state of joy. I can think of times when I was like generally sad most of the time, and being happy was like moments that were few and far between. And now I think because I've spent so much time working on like my foundational mindset, it's like I'm generally at neutral or in a state of like satisfaction, and then the moments of disappointment and depression and sadness are few and far between. Now it's the opposite. And I just think that it's important to encourage people to recognize that you can slowly and consistently shift your mindset so that it can be that way, so that you are living in a neutral to positive state, and then negative, uncomfortable experiences are considered like an anomaly, rather than living in a sad state and only occasionally experiencing joy. Does that make sense? And these are very small shifts. You know, I'm not saying that I know how to like dismantle capitalism, because I don't. The system is much greater than anything I can possibly comprehend in my tiny mind. But I think that when you consider the small ways in which you can reclaim your energy and protect your mind palace so that your energy can be directed towards finding that joy in your life and maintaining it and nurturing it. If you're dating someone who doesn't treat you right and is a source of your anxiety, not dating them anymore is going to free up so much energy for you, regardless of where you are on the social ladder. That's a form of self-empowerment, being able to remove people from your life who are bringing more problems than they are peace and prosperity, whether it's a friend, a lover, or even maybe a family member. And then when you think about like your job, if it's a source of a type of stress that is causing harm to you, not like a productive form of stress, one that motivates you and excites you, but like a type of stress that causes like a deterioration of your sense of self or your mind or your body, becoming aware of that gives you the privilege of awareness, which then allows you to act more intentionally, whether that's finding ways to separate your self-worth from your job, finding ways to better manage your time and energy at your job, or finding a new job. Because life is going to happen to you, whether you like it or not. And you can instead have life work for you, you know? But it's about the awareness that you start to create around your internal cup and the choices that you're making. So happiness is not just something that, it's not something that you can just buy, you know? And when you are surrounded by marketing messaging that's like, if you just have this, you're going to be happy. If you just have this, then you'll feel good. Then you'll be pretty. Then you'll be enough. It is so difficult to imagine that you could actually experience joy separate to those things. But you have to take the time and put in the effort to be intentional with those in-between moments in your life so that you can experience it and so that you can be more consistent and that you can nurture it. I think that your energy is also a type of currency. If you're spending a lot of time on social media and you find yourself feeling anxious and insecure a lot of the time, nobody loses anything from you not spending time on social media. You know, tech companies lose a bit of their ad revenue. So where's the real loss? There's also like that famous experiment about the dog that was cruelly shocked, electrocuted while in a cage, and then eventually the dog became used to being electrocuted. And even when the researchers opened up the cage to let him free, they thought that he would run out, but instead he didn't move, he just stayed inside the cage. And this is supposed to be like a reflection of the ways that you become used to the violence that you experience. And as a result, you lose your like survival instinct. It becomes muted. So I think that as a human being, you have a prefrontal cortex. So if you become aware of the ways in which you're suffering, in the ways in which you might be getting in your own way, in the ways in which you've attached happiness to external outcomes and not considered how you can generate it from within, how you can nurture it from within, how you can take control of your time and energy, then you won't even realize that you have lost your ability to chase it or create it. So it's like very small steps. A lot of people talk about it as if it's like overnight you're going to be able to suddenly see the light. But I think that if you can break it down into small steps, then you're not going to take it so personally when you don't feel like you're in this like magically empowered place that you feel that other people are and you're not. Being able to embrace your own journey is so important, because I've met people who, like I said, are older than me, and realizing at all different stages of their lives what's really important to them. And that is going to change at different stages of your life as well, you know? So I think that when you're able to like radically accept your life and your circumstances and who you are, which is also a practice because you're going to have moments of insecurity. You're going to have moments where you compare yourself to other people, but you would prefer for those moments to be few and far between rather than a constant state of being, right? When you do that, you can appreciate that every moment in your life has led up to this moment right now, has led up to you listening to this video, you watching this video. And I think that that also gives you an awareness of what you can do next. And that is also a practice. And I think that when you think of it like a practice, you don't worry so much about the destination. You know, I might have like ideas of what I want to achieve or things I want to work towards, but I try to focus on the process of getting there. And I was talking to my friends about this the other day, like the different goals that we might have for this year and how we've changed our approach to being able to achieve them. You know, like, okay, if we have like creative goals, rather than thinking that it's about the creative output, we think about the creative process. What can we be doing on a daily or weekly basis to nurture these ideas, to nurture the process of creating, whether it's in photography, in music, video, whatever. So the world that we live in and the values that are espoused by society, it's all very external focused and it's all very outcome based, and it's all about like, what do you have to show for the time that you've spent doing XYZ? And I think that if you just know for yourself that you've learned something, even if it's on the 100th day, on the 10th year, something finally clicks, better late than never. Better late than never, okay? Because you could go 102 days of living in a state of unawareness, but instead you got it at day 100, okay? You could have been in a shitty relationship for 10 years and a day, but you caught it on the 10-year mark. It's better than not catching it at all, right? So I think that it's not wasted time if you've learned something. And sometimes it just takes you time to actually realize that. You know, I think I'm like 6 months out of the 2.5 years that I spent basically in a state of like semi-retirement. Like I really feel like my life has been backwards in the sense that when I first started my career, I was doing a community-based project instead of focusing on my own shit. And then I also like went into retirement at like 26, 27. But I appreciate my journey for what it is. I made it out of that period, and now I'm able to like slowly rebuild the external parts of my life, when for the last 2.5 years, a lot of my energy was focused inward. I was able to untangle a lot of things that I was running away from, a lot of wounds that I wasn't aware of, that I hadn't spent time healing, and that I wouldn't have been able to heal if I had just stayed in Shanghai. Like the lifestyle that I had here was not conducive to me being able to do really deep inner work. That might have been spread out over like 5 or 10 years, but I was able to get a handle on it in the space of 2.5. And even though it wasn't a conventional path, it's like that was out of my control. I couldn't, like once the borders were closed, there was nothing I could do, you know? I could say like, oh, if only I had made this and that decision, but it's too late now. Like I'm stuck. You've got to make the most of the time that you have. The challenges that come your way are what keep your life interesting. You know, I have the most insane stories about some of the shit that I've been through because of like things I couldn't have predicted. And even if it was really fucked up at the time, it's made me who I am. So, you know, I don't hate myself that much. That's a win. Better than nothing. So yeah, I don't even know if this video makes any sense, but I just don't want people to be so hard on themselves when they think about their life. You know, if you're in your early 20s, if you're at any stage in life, it's never too late to start living your life with a little bit more awareness than you had yesterday, and to start being a little bit more intentional than you were yesterday. And I think that when you start to embrace that practice on whatever scale, you don't think about your past as wasted time. You think about it as character building time. You think about it as research time. And the pace at which people are learning and researching is going to be different. The journey and the stages of everyone's journey is going to be different. And that's what makes being a person interesting? Why do you want to be the same as everybody else? It's already been done. It doesn't make any sense, like, what if my life was the same as everybody else's? I would have nothing to talk about of value. I'm not a value add to anything if my perspective is the exact same. People want you to think that if you're the same, then your life is going to be easier, but it doesn't mean that your life is going to be more interesting. And what would you prefer? Some people are happy to just live an easy life that has no meaning, nothing, and that's fine. But I think that if you're watching this video or listening to this podcast, you do feel like there's more to your life than what you've been told. And it's not about how many people see it or how many people appreciate it. It's about how you connect with yourself and how you connect with the people around you. And that's honestly going to be quite a small number for most people. And I think that that is very freeing. You don't need 200,000 people to appreciate you, to appreciate yourself. If you can appreciate yourself and you can connect with like 2 other people, I think that's a life well lived. That's hard for a lot of people. There are people out there that have millions of fans and feel totally disconnected from who they are. They don't feel connected with the people around them. So I think that it is such a privilege that you can experience like quality connections, authentic connections with people. That's like the shit that makes life exciting and fulfilling, being able to see and support others and empower other people. At least that's what I think. And you don't have to agree with me, but I'm just sharing my opinion based on the chaotic life that I've lived thus far. So thank you for tuning in to my little tangent. I hope everyone's doing well. 2023, it's the end of January as I film this. What will this year bring? I have no idea. I'm going to try my best to keep updating and filming and posting while I do all the other things that I have going on. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and feelings. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends as well. Drink lots of water. Tell your friends and family that you love them. And go be a better person. Love you. Speak soon.